All right. Welcome to episode 3 of the Racket House podcast, where we discuss all things music and success in our fun corner of the world. Today, I'm honored to sit down with James Gross, hailing from LA. What I love about James' background is, well, like me, he spent a long time in the music space, 9 years, wearing many hats, notably a prominent photographer and videographer who also runs an artist management company called Powerhaus Management. I had the pleasure of meeting James during one of my last weeks living in LA. And thanks to his newest venture, it's called IndustryHours. We were able to connect and meet. And it was a great night of networking and meeting like-minded individuals, people in the music space across all different types of roles. Industry Hours is a music networking event happening every month in LA, and who knows, maybe in the future all around the country. I had an amazing time attending, and hopefully I can get back for more soon, whether it's here in my new home in Denver, back in LA, who knows where else this thing is going. But welcome, James. I'm so excited to be with you. Anything I missed?
No, that's a really solid intro. Thanks for having me. I'm super excited to discuss all things industry. So,
Yeah, me too. And I think what really resonated with your background. I mean, we only met and spoke for a short amount of time, and actually this episode is going to be more of get to know you and share the work you're doing with the public and both of our respective communities. But something that really resonated with me was not only the longevity of your time in the music space. I say that I'm in it for 15 years, wearing a lot of different hats, and you've worn a lot of different hats. We overlap on the artist management side. That's something I did for many years. I was a very amateur photographer when I was running my music blog. My Music is Better Than Yours. We would get media passes to cover festivals and events, and I had to learn to become a decent photographer at the time. So I'd love to hear kind of your story. Where'd you grow up? How did you get started? It sounds like photography was kind of like you're in to the industry, but like give us the kind of like short little bio and what makes James James.
yeah, definitely. So, originally I'm actually from Panama, and I come from a military family. So I've moved all over my life. I went to high school and college in Indiana, and then back in 2011, I moved from Indiana to Denver, and then I lived there for about 3 years, and then I moved to California. And in that time frame, I lived with my cousin, and we would go out to the clubs and stuff. And I ended up at the time I didn't have my camera because my gear got stolen, and then I was like in the works of getting some new gear, but as a hobby, I didn't at that time I didn't have the idea to pursue it professionally, like full time. It's just kind of always been a really big passion, love, hobby of mine.
Sure.
So I ended up going to Avalon, and I met the photographers there that night, and we befriended them. They came back to us. We did a little after party, and they invited me out to Avalon again. And they were like, "Hey, man, like whenever you get a camera, just hit us up, and we'll get you a pass. You can shoot." And I took them up on the offer. I ended up shooting at Avalon with a little credential, and then they told me to meet the guy who owns the company and to see if maybe he'd hire me. And then after that point, I became the first paid photographer for Mayhem Events. So I started back with them in 2015, and then I did that until 2019.
And for those who don't know Mayhem, like me, what is Mayhem Events?
So they're they're a pretty OG event company out here in Los Angeles. They kind of do a lot of more like local talent. But they operate out of they're still around doing events at Avalon and venues across SoCal. But yeah, it's just one of the event companies that was crushing it for quite a while. They're still doing things, little different scale, but I that's where I kind of got my start from. Was
Awesome.
at Avalon with them. So
Yeah,
it's been good.
So that was you built the skill set in photography, videography. You made some friends. Connections are huge in the industry, right? I mean, we'll talk about that in a bit with your industry hours, right? But making connections, I think it's so important for the music space for a lot of different things. For I'm thankful and grateful for everywhere I've gotten in my life through my network and the connections. But it sounds like that was really your in to start start shooting in the music space, and then where did it go from there?
So at one point in time, I was literally a residential photographer for 7 to 9 event companies. So when photographers ask me what the best way to get in, I always recommend an event company. It's a big blanket. You can go through the crowd. You can network essentially with people who are in the crowd who could be industry. You can meet all the artists. You can meet their managers. So you get a lot of flexibility. So I really like that because then you can really get that exposure, that brand awareness. And then I was one of the people who really pushed for credit super heavily, super heavily for
Mm-hmm.
credit and all the posts with all my clients. And I think that's what helped me really expand my brand. And then I got into videography in like 2021 just because it was necessity.
Yep.
The way that social media landscapes changed, you have to kind of create content that's more engaging, more viewership time,
Mm-hmm.
so you can feed the machine for the apps. But yeah, just through photography, and then I worked with a brand, an artist in 2019, and the way the manager was running things, I wasn't too happy with, and I just told myself like I could do a better job than he could. And then I got into artist management that way. So it kind of was just kind of having a disgruntled experience with a manager that kind of lit the fire. And I was like, there's not really a guideline out there for artist management or courses in school per se. I mean, I'm sure now there's more. They're developing more stuff for the music industry in terms of guidelines and things like that. But I mean, everyone's just back then was just kind of figuring it out as they go. But it's been a good journey, little good pivot. But yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's a few things there, right? So I think it's important to like really lean into, the way that you built success as a creative, right? Like we talk about the music space, but creatives can come in many different forms, right? And so you are creative in the sense that your art was your photography, and was that basically your only source of income at the time? And maybe, well,
So yeah, so I did have a day job actually.
okay, okay.
When I got out here, my cousin hooked me up with a pretty good job, working for a collection agency. So not very glamorous, but pretty good pay for what it is. So yeah, I did. I was actually also working at Johnny Rockets in Santa Monica, and I would go out there during the weekends.
You're the second person to mention Johnny Rockets in the last week to me. I reconnected with an old friend out here in Denver, and we were talking about our stories and stuff, and she used to work at Johnny Rockets too. I was like, damn, I haven't heard that name in a minute. Now I hear it twice in a week.
which was it on the 16th Street Mall in
No,
Denver?
she's from Florida, so okay, so you had a day job, like many of us do or did, and then have you successfully transitioned over to music full time, and that's what's paying the bills at this point?
Yeah, so literally 1 week before pandemic hit, I had an epiphany. I was making good money, but I was super unhappy, just like
Mm,
mentally with the office. And I love that boss. She's great. She taught me a lot of great skills, but it was a lot of negativity in that space, and it kind of gets you after a while. So I just told myself, I'm super busy on weekends, nights and weekends. I'm getting booked. I'm making a certain amount of money. If I quit my day job and supplement my day job with the effort I'm taking now during nights and weekends, I think I can sustain myself.
mm-hmm,
So I quit my job, and then a week later, pandemic happened.
mm.
So the last show I shot before pandemic was Crossed, and someone there actually had COVID, and he was documenting it on Twitter and all this stuff.
I
And
was
then
at that crossed.
good one. It was super fun. And yeah, just the whole world shut down, and I just like told myself I'm not, no matter what, I'm not gonna do anything for a company unless it's like a huge opportunity, something crazy, like
Hell yeah.
So pandemic happened. No one booked me, for 6 months because of social distance photo shoots, but I stuck through it. And then I ended up meeting a really good friend of mine. His name's Chris Davies. He's the lead editor at Insomniac, and he told me to apply because I had been working with Insomniac in 2021. I started with him with Day Trip, and it's funny because my friend Bailey at the time she couldn't do one of the gigs for them, so she told me, go shoot it. I'll edit it. I've never done like video recap or anything.
Hmm.
And I shot it. She edited it. They loved it. And then she wasn't available for another weekend. So they brought me back out to shoot and edit. And after that, I was, started doing videos. So, I worked with them for the club division. At the time, I was full-time freelancer. And then I applied full-time as an assistant editor. I think that was in 2022-ish. And I did that probably like end of 2022, about 2023. And then I was full time in the office for about a year and a half. And then I transitioned back to full time, just self employed about 5 months ago.
That's great.
That's how I've been able to focus on IndustryHours and my other ventures.
Yeah. So so you were able to sustain during the pandemic, which, live events pretty much got shut down. So you figured out a way to either kind of roll with what you had, your cushion you had made from your other job, or you figured out a way to make some money, even though events were mostly shut down. But you basically, I mean, what I think is the most inspiring from this story is that you, like me, got burnt out on that day job, that corporate job. You knew it wasn't your calling, your passion. You figured out a way to make it work. You said to yourself, I'm not going back, right? Like that was what you said. And I had a similar epiphany. And I think a lot of people out there, especially the people that I work with, probably the people you talk to too, they want to make something out of their passions or what they're good at. And it's just a matter of figuring out how to do that. So you successfully figured that out. Again, you used your network, to find opportunities. You learn new skills, and then and now you're powering through it. No pun intended with the Powerhaus Management, but that's super inspiring. I do want to, so you talked about the photo video stuff, and then I want to talk about the artist management piece, right? You can you sort of recap what that was? You met an artist, or you knew an artist, and his manager wasn't cutting it. Like dive into that a little bit more.
So I had worked an event at Exchange, and I was shooting the opener, who was my friend Gotti, and the supporting act was Lick, and I won't name drop too much more. And I ended up working with his team, and I just had a really, really sour experience. And just the way it just seemed, I don't know what a good word to use. It was kind of like an amateur experience to me in terms of the way his team was running things. So that's what inspired me. I just thought to myself, this guy can manage an artist of this caliber. There's no reason why I can't manage an artist of this caliber and do better.
Mm-hmm.
So that was kind of what did it for me, was just having a bad experience with the manager. Just going through all that, and that was what prompted me. Then I picked up my first artist in 2019, like before pandemic, and I started growing and learning that. It took quite a while to really get the wheels going on that.
Yep.
But I've been working with my people for quite a while, for a few years, and we've been growing their brands. And just with anything, it's always going to be a slow burn in the industry, because overnight success is 10 years. But the artists I manage are amazing. They have everything it takes to become, headliner, full-time touring artist, but it's just about getting them from point A to point B.
Sure. Yeah. I think the concept of an artist manager is an interesting one, and it's a place that I've spent a lot of time, right? So I've managed probably half a dozen artists. A lot of them, pretty much majority of them, were kind of like a friendager situation, right? So the reason that I got into artist management was because I have what I believe is a unique skill set. I have a business background. I worked in large enterprise, corporate sales and tech jobs, but the passion for music, and I kind of see both sides of it as a creative. I also produce and DJ, right? So I have both sides of what I believe, and I can help these creatives get where they want to go as well. I think using a lot of the skills that I built outside of the music space, or even within it. But I think there's this idea that, and I've seen it, I've joined a lot of Reddit forums, I'm on social media all day, right? So I think there's this idea that like every artist, no matter where they are in their journey, thinks they need a manager. And what their idea of a manager is, in my opinion, is not always accurate. So could you maybe summarize, what is what is the role of an artist manager? What is his or her day to day? And what is she ultimately helping the artist do?
Mhm.
And then B, talk to me about your philosophy in artist management. Well, at what point do you think an artist needs a manager?
Yeah. Yeah. So for artist manager, I really feel like your job is to be that person's right hand man in terms of business, building the brand, helping them with connections, and just overall like feedback, like developing them, whether it's mentally, helping them with what issues they're having outside of their work life, like, hey, I'm going through a really bad breakup. It's affecting me mentally. I'm going through this depressive state. I can't, I'm
So
not able to.
they're unofficial therapist.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, at a certain point, you become. It's a really being an artist manager is such a interesting dynamic in terms of
hmm
relationship.
hmm
It's a very like it's like yeah, they become your best friend. So this stuff does affect business, and you would be a bad friend if you didn't discuss certain things. You'd be a bad manager if you didn't discuss certain things because it all trickles down. If
hmm
your art does well, you do well. So being an artist manager, it's really finding a golden nugget or like something that hasn't been polished yet and
hmm
helping them to become their true final self, becoming the artist that they've always wanted to be, whether it's helping them with like their creative stuff. So like with my guys, I helped them with like the art, with sourcing, graphic designers, with having the concept, with helping create a marketing plan, rolling it out like, hey, we want to do these posts, and also helping them with bookings and things like that, facilitating that, doing stuff, helping day to day, or essentially helping them even with the creative process. Like, hey, how can we help you do a drop faster? Oh, here's some inspiration for a really cool intro, or here's a song that you can take and remix. So it's
hmm
about helping someone get to the next level, but like doing it truthfully, like actually doing it for the benefit of the artist because that benefits you in the long run. So that's to me, that's the best way to kind of um, describe an artist manager is just someone that can help you get to where you need to be. Someone there that's there from the beginning. They help you develop. They help you with business. They help you creatively. Everything,
Yeah.
emotionally, mentally, career wise.
Yeah. I think like a way I would describe it is, helping to remove roadblocks in a way. And then so you're like, maybe the analogy I'd use is like you're paving a highway, right? Like you're removing all the bumps that'll mess you up, and then you're connecting the roadways so that you can get further faster and where you want to go. I just made that one up, and I think I might start using that. But
Yeah.
um, yeah, and so like, what is your like? How do you approach things where maybe I, I don't know, maybe you've had this experience, maybe you haven't, but like, have you been in scenarios where you have a strong belief or recommendation for the artist to do something and they won't take your advice, they won't listen to you, they don't, is there some sort of like, has there ever been friction in the relationship, and how do you get through that?
Yeah. So one of my artists, we actually did a rebrand for him, and it was so hard to get him to get away from his name because he really wanted to like pay homage to it,
Yeah.
So we were able to take instead of using his full name, we at least were able to shorten it, and it's definitely been a big change for him. So I've rebranded three of my artists actually in terms
hmm
of their names, the way they look, the brand identity, colors, everything, top to bottom. Like, if you want to call it branding Bible, right, which would be, your name, logo, emblem, um, like your colors, the way your social media looks, how your brand is presented to promoters and things like that. So yeah, getting him to change his name was probably a 3 to 4 month process, and he tells me to this day, he's like, "This is the best decision I've ever made in my career." It's helped him a lot because it's really about first impressions. Your name is a big deal when it comes to how you present yourself to fans, to other people in the industry, and things like that.
hmm
It's your brand. So that was something that was took a little bit, but like he said, it's the best thing that he's done for his career, and it's helped a lot. So we've rebranded a few of the artists, and the names are definitely something that's headliner worthy. What you could see on a flyer, a lot easier to pitch, and it's more memorable. So I
Yeah.
would say that was probably one of the biggest roadblocks that we had to go through. But
Yeah,
he's
that's great. I think like for me, I mean, I can share stories for sure. I mean, there's a reason I stopped I
Mhm.
stopped doing artist management, right? But I think for a particular group of artists that would that challenge about like friends first and then getting into a professional business relationship was, and well, part B we haven't really talked about yet, and that was the question around like at what point in an artist's journey, do you think they need a manager? You able to, sort of offer the insights on that one?
Yeah, so I mean, if you're a beginner artist manager, you're not going to be able to pick up some mid-sized name, a big artist because you don't have experience. So a lot of smaller artists who get into the artist management game, they do the whole friend management thing, which I understand. So you kind of have to pick someone that's kind of at a good caliber. But also there's a lot of people who are beginning and they kind of get overwhelmed. They're like, oh, I need an artist manager that handles for me. I need this and this. But it's like they don't really have a brand. They don't have bookings. They don't have music. They
don't have things to manage.
Yeah. So
that's what I always go back to is like, if you need a manager, in my opinion, you need to have things to manage that you can't do yourself. And so when I hear this question from artists, I always say like, you need to be able to do as much as you can on your own. And then when you get big enough or so big that you can't handle all this stuff, you need somebody to handle the business side of things while you create the art or do the performances or whatever that is. Then in my opinion, that's when it makes sense. Do you share that same thought?
I do. I agree with that, because you start with the management, and then from there, you get enough tour history, you have enough good financials to show someone, then you can worry about getting a booking agent. And then you start building out your team. You get your day-to-day, you get your business manager,
right,
all that great stuff.
And when you say financials, you mean like ticket sales, right?
Yeah, just enough something where
data
an agency's like, hey, you have demand, let's go ahead and take your project and help you get it to the next level too.
Right.
But they definitely are going to want, you don't necessarily need to have existing tour history, but at least if you have a good brand, you have good streams, a good presence, good numbers online, even that's definitely going to help you.
Got it. So you basically you fell into this role. You said, "Hey, I can do this better than somebody else," and that was 5 years ago. You said 2019, something. Yeah. So 5 years you've been doing artist management. You have, if you go to your Powerhaus Management website, you have a roster of artists there. I mean, it's a sexy website. The artists look like they're killing it. I would, curious about some of your learnings. I would love to hear about, if you've proven yourself right in some of those, couple wins, success stories you've had. And then like, maybe if you want to share like where maybe you thought maybe this wasn't the thing for you, but you've obviously powered through. Again, no pun intended.
Yeah. So I would say, sorry, can you repeat one more time the question?
I threw multiple at you, right? Okay, so I'd say the first one is your hypothesis was that you can do it better than existing managers. You've had 5 years of data to collect. So what's your kind of how would you say that you've been performing overall, and like share a couple wins? Like how have you been able to crush it for your artists?
Yeah, so I would say, I mean, I've made the process super smooth for everyone we've worked with. With that artist manager, it's just like you have to invest in relationships with other people to help you grow your brand. So I would say, we're doing a great job working with all the people we've been working with originally. In terms of wins, the artists I picked up, they have had the biggest shows with me through my connections, through my leverage and things like that. So I would say those are really solid wins and helping them, get better shows that are higher quality. I prefer my artists to do shows at high quality instead of doing these shows that cheapen the brand. That's the issue, is a lot of artists get stuck in this like cycle. They're like, oh, why am I only doing, shows where I'm getting paid $100, or why am I only doing after hours or things like that? But it's because they kind of like position themselves as that kind of DJ, and they kind of have, I don't want to say they have the reputation, but it's kind of how their brand is portrayed.
Yes.
Kind of do cheapen the brand. So it's like for my one artist, we're about to announce tomorrow, he's playing with Phase One at Exchange in October. So we'll make that announcement on Thursday. We locked that in last week. So things like that, it's like I want to only have high quality stuff for the artists that I'm working with, high quality album art, high quality songs, things like that. So through that, we've gotten the best gigs that my artists have received, and the music has just increased exponentially. So it's a lot helping them refine the process, helping them, giving them truthful feedback. Hey, I really enjoy this, or hey, this seems kind of off, because you have ear fatigue. The artists spend hours and hours producing, listen to the same song, same videographers when you're editing, right? You're doing a recap, same song over and over again. So after a while, you kind of need some fresh ears. So I would say the wins would be just helping the brands breathe a little more, become more filled out, and then helping them with like the bookings and stuff like that. We're still working on some like bigger collabs.
Sure.
But my artists are also really picky, which is good. We've kind of like
Picky's good.
we're
Picky's
all
good. Picky's
so
good. Picky maybe not so good. I just sat down. It feels good. I like standing because I feel like it gives me a little bit more bass in my voice, but then I'm like, I sit down. But yeah, so I think you hit a point that is something that I've been working on with my clients as well. And it's I don't know if you've seen any of the, throwing out content left and right here, but I've kind of come up with this idea of like a fuck yeah checklist, right? And so one of the common things in my clients, and for those listening who don't know, I run an artist development agency called the Racket House, and so I work one-on-one with artists and helping them develop and grow. It borrows from an artist management perspective and my work there, but also a lot of strategy, kind of like consulting, mentorship. Really, I take the shape of whatever they need me to, but one of the most common topics of artists is not only their art itself, but it's performing and gigging, and everybody wants to gig, right? And I think if we're talking about DJs, which is closest to the pin for both of us, but it doesn't just apply, right? Any performing artist, they want to perform, they want to share their art, they want to get in front of a crowd, and it's really easy to just say yes to whatever you're offered, right? But what I encourage people I work with, people listening, I'm sure it sounds like the same for you and your artists, is to be really critical in thinking about, is this opportunity going to benefit my career long term? Is it going to benefit my brand? And it sounds like that's what you help your artists with, because if we're taking gigs just to take gigs, it's there's a lot of reasons why it won't help us in the long run, right?
Yeah, there's power in no.
There's power in no. There's power in numbers in a team. And it sounds like, you're doing everything you possibly can to help build these artists up. And I'm really excited to hear that. I'm sure they're excited to be working with you. If I was an artist, well, I am an artist, but if if I was on a different trajectory, I'd think about working with you too. So it's all good stuff there.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to share from like your work in the artist management space? I mean, what is your team like?
Well, so for my team, we did have a few kind of assistants who went on to different roles. But right now, in terms of my team for Powerhouse, I do have one other artist manager on the team, and we do co-manage together. I did one of the artists that I currently have. I had a co-manager with him, but people grow, things happen, people kind of go in different trajectories in the industry. So I've kind of retained that artist and helped him grow. And he's actually flying out to Seattle this month to play a show. So yeah,
That's great. I do
been,
have questions that you can choose not to answer, but a lot of do you have contracts with your artists, or are they more like handshake agreements?
yes. So majority of them are contracts, like a few year contracts, and the rest are kind of handshake. I'm not the biggest, like, contracts are great because it protects both parties, but I feel like a lot of artist management is performance based and
Sure.
just like proving that you can get results, that you can give them opportunities. Work like if you work with me, I can open doors for you. I can get you into the people you need to talk to. So that's like what I've been really leveraging on lately, is just making sure that my artists have artist passes for festivals. Like, to hard, my artists were credentialed, so you can go, network with people in the green rooms, things like that. And those are really important. You can do a lot of really important networking online, but there's nothing like an in-person kind of networking thing.
Oh my God, scream that louder, please.
It's
Say
so
that again for the people in the back.
There's nothing can beat an in-person networking experience.
Oh
There's
yeah.
nothing else that beats it, which is why I have industry hours. Industry hours is it's not really for me, to be fair. It's really for my artists. It's like a platform. Like, as an artist manager, I need to give you the best connection. So what's the best way to build connections? Just hosting a top tier, high quality networking event for my people.
That was a really smooth transition and plug, but I just, yeah, just hammering that in-person piece. I mean, again, like there are a lot of common themes that repeat in the work that I do and with my artists. And, you know, you do similar work in helping to build brands, grow your artists. I'm doing it in a bit of a different way. But the advisement that I give is you need to be networking both online and in person. And, you know, maybe something that seems daunting, but could be kind of small is like getting out once a week to something in person, right? Like whether that's an event that a promoter throws that you want to be a part of, whether it's a festival where, you know, whatever that is. I actually have sent your event this month on August 21st. Is that correct? Yes. August 21st, Industry Hours in LA. I've sent that to all my clients, actually. And one of my clients is the DJ playing David Paul. Plug for David Paul, who's the musical guest for the next one. Yeah, I think it's really great what you're doing with that. Yeah, let's transition over that. Like tell me about, I guess you sort of teased the impetus, like the reason that you started this, but like let's get into the weeds with like where the idea came from, what the thought process was, how it's gone so far, what the vision is long term. Let's just kind of like chunk that out from like idea to execution to
Yeah.
vision and future.
Okay, yeah. So IndustryHours was conceived back in 2019, I believe, if not 2018. I have to look at the Instagram when everything was created, but that was quite a while. It was right around the artist management thing. So to me, the whole concept was trying to create something that makes it easier for like everyone to be connected. Because I always ask people, oh, okay, let's say you own an event company and you want to hire someone. You run an event company. It's techno and it's low production. You know, there's like it's a dingy warehouse, and you need to hire a photographer, videographer with a special set of skills and low light, right? So to me, I was like, you post online, you yell into the abyss of social media, and you hope someone that algorithm catches it. You hope someone that algorithm sees it who has that connection to whatever you're looking for. So I had the idea to just do like a one-stop shop where people can get gigs, people can, sell, you can have like a marketplace. So I could sell CDJs to someone. You can go ahead and create a profile and all this stuff. So originally Industry Hours was online. It was as an app. And I went through an app developer, and it was actually a directory company because Industry Hours is going to be the largest comprehensive directory for music professionals. So anyone you see at EDC, whether it's a VJ, someone who's doing, loadout, fire spinners, go-go dancers, beat, etc. Literally anyone who's at the festival to work or anyone who's working an event, this is what like Industry Hours is for. So that was, I had the website up for quite a while, and then pandemic hit, and then I shut it down because it was really expensive to maintain it.
Yep.
So now, now that I have the availability to do these things, I just am doing the in-person stuff to build a brand until I can find a really good app developer. And then the goal is to make it a one-stop shop. But yeah, the in-person events are very special. I don't record any of it. We do some photos and stuff like that, but I really want the magic to be in person.
Yep.
People to actually get the value of rubbing shoulders with people in the industry who are actually doing things currently. So yeah, and it's just a great platform for my artists. It's just, they come here, they can network, they can do their thing, and they can make connections while I'm hosting the event or whatever it may be. So we're all extensions of each other because we're a team. A win for my artist is a win for me, and vice versa.
Oh yeah.
So that's the beautiful thing about the synergy that we have.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, so I went to the one last month. That was your first one?
That was the first one
That
ever.
was the first one. So I went to the first, and that one was so good. I can only imagine how much better they're going to get. I don't know if they can, but my personal experience, one of my clients, again, shout David Paul. He's built a relationship with one of your former clients, I believe, On Deck, Raven, out of LA, also another amazing producer DJ. And yeah, I just got the invite. I said, this sounds something interesting. And yeah, I got to meet, artists. I got to see a great talk from Pasquale, the founder of Insomniac and EDC, his brand manager, and a bunch of other great people. Met people who throw events around LA, the founder of Framed, right? So it was a great experience. unfortunately I couldn't be there the whole time, but I came for the back half, and that alone was great. And I think what you're doing is really beneficial, and to keep getting word out about that for anyone in the industry who can benefit from that is amazing. So what's the future hold? Like, where do you see this thing going?
Yeah, so I mean, I really am aiming for that title for it being the biggest networking event for the music industry. So that's my goal. That's my plan. Every project that I do, I intend on seeing it in full. I don't ever plan on quitting anything. So for this, I plan on establishing this greatly as a monthly event in Los Angeles. Having the app, making that international. Because when I did have the app, I even had people in Australia who were joining it. So like when I had the app, I had up to 500 members in a few months. So there's definitely a demand for it. There's definitely a need and a want for it. So the goal is to just every single month in LA, maybe in the next 6 months to a year, start doing things in different cities on the same date. So having industry hours in Denver, Chicago, Miami, just all the hubs, all the
Yep.
music hubs, and just make it a big international brand. And then maybe have the app become so big that I can sell it to a company like Live Nation or something for
Yeah.
a few $1 million, and I can
Yeah.
focus on their stuff. Because the cool thing about being a creator, you can always just create more ideas.
Yeah.
You can only replicate so much, but when you are the authentic originator of an idea, no one can really touch it. No one can really make it what it could be except for you. But
Right.
it's crazy too, because I started this in 2018, 2019, and there still hasn't really been a company that's like a leader in it. There's no big presence for it. So it seems like it's going to be my responsibility to make something like this big, but maybe one day I can do conventions even.
Yeah.
Like,
And when you say it, I mean, do you mean like just like a networking ongoing series? Like,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, between
Yeah.
the series and the app, I want to have the online presence and in-person stuff, and they all just kind of piggyback off each other. But
Yeah, yeah, because obviously there's a lot of, there's conferences throughout the year, and there's industry meetups, and then there's apps, but there's, to my knowledge, nothing that combines the two. And so, and also when you say, you talk about being a creative and having ideas, but you're also a business guy, right? Like you have business savvy. And again, I think that's one of the things that I really admired about you when we met, and even just reading your history and your bio is you're combining music and business. You're combining creative, you're combining art with, running a business and helping others do the same. So I think that's really inspiring. And, when we think about artists too, like they have to think of themselves as a business as well, right? Like they are CEO of whatever brand they are. And so, I think that's valuable, and your experience that you've had and that you're getting and that you're, how you're growing can help these other artists think in the same way. So,
yeah.
that's amazing stuff. So like, how do you spend your time? Like if we're sort of, I guess in my mind, I'm splitting 3 areas of focus for you: photography, artist management, and now, what you're doing with, industry hours. Is that a fair way to look at things? Are there things we haven't talked about that you're involved with, or like, how do you spend your days, your time? If you want to share, like, where does the majority of your revenue and income come from, that sort of thing?
Yeah. So, I mean, just like, touching on the business thing before we move to that, I always tell everyone I'm a stronger businessman than I am creative. And that's why my career Respawn Zone has become what it is. But yeah, so segueing into kind of like a day in the life of me. So yes, I have Industry Hours, which is, eventually, it's just essentially event curation, my photo video brand. And then I have my management agency. What I also do have on top of that is a few months ago, I started an agency, and we're trying to work it out with the first client. But I created a full service digital design firm, and
Mm.
I kind of took all my connections from the music industry. We actually have 23 people that are like essentially on the team as contractors, and it's the digital presence for doctors, dentists, plastic surgeons, pediatricians, things like that. So I'm getting into that industry just as not as a creative, but as like a director role and doing outreach and doing project management. So that's one of the projects I do have that I haven't like hard launched yet. The website's almost done. The pitch deck's almost done. We are talking it out with 2 clients, one being a law firm. But it would essentially be, helping the doctors, because we have app developers, we have SEO, we have marketers, we have designers that can do Unreal Engine, things like that. So that's going to be my big kind of like money generator so that I can focus on these other projects and pump money into my artists that I have currently. So I'm always trying to find ways to like scale up a business that's low overhead and that can generate a lot of money. So for that, even like our lowest package is like 25 grand. So we'd be working with people who have money. The best way to make money is work with people who have money. So that's one project that I'm doing. That's not a hard launch yet, but I will be announcing it in the next like month officially. So I do a business partner with that. And then I did have an event company with one of the people I was managing my artists with that moved on. So I do have an event company called Foundation. So the goal is to also throw events, and for Foundation, or I might have to rebrand that for that brand. That's also a platform for my artists for artist management. So Industry Hours was a good way to connect everyone. Foundation, or my event company that I'm probably going to have to rebrand, that's going to be also a platform for them. Best way to get your artist gigs, book an artist in their realm, have them direct support, yada yada. It's a game.
Yeah, you're playing all the sides, and you're king at rebranding, so that shouldn't be an issue for you.
Yeah, so that's something that we're actually in the talks with. We are going to be signing a partnership with an ex-pro NBA player who used to play for the Hoosiers and play with the Lakers. He played with Kobe. He was all-star defensive player. So he currently does events. He did 18 events this year. We had our second meeting yesterday. Next week, we should be signing like a partnership agreement, but we'll be doing festivals with him. And we just did a venue walkthrough last week. So that would be, we're looking at 7,000 to 9,000 person festival in the heart of LA. And it's right down the street from Exchange, the venue that we're looking at. So, so essentially my day to day is I wake up around 11 noon, go to the gym, handle errands and chores. And then from 3 p.m. until I go to bed between 3 and 7 a.m. every day. So last night I went to bed around 6. So every day it's just me working on those projects. Whether for like, I also work, for my Spawn Zone brand, I work for a bunch of companies, through like Cross, Insomniac, Area 15, Bobby D, and I have all my clients I've been working with over the years, DJs directly, all this stuff. So, I work on my creative projects throughout the day. I do my artist management stuff in the day. And the good thing is that Industry Hours, I can do everything I need to do for Industry Hours within a day. Just, get all my speakers locked in, start getting my assets done, and just start posting the flyers and everything. So the good thing with that is some of my projects aren't as time consuming as others.
Yep.
But I would say my most time consuming projects are definitely the my personal brand and the artist management. So it's a lot of juggling, honestly, at this point.
You sound like a juggler, and you're taking time out of your day with all these projects to speak to me. And so I think that's again really inspiring, and I think that just shows character too, right? Like, I don't know, man. This industry is, as we know, it's very. It's got a lot of interesting people in it, and there's a lot of people who will give you the time of day, and there's a lot of people who won't give you the time of day. And I think for what you've built and all the work you're doing and the success you've seen, to just like meet with me, continue a conversation, respond to text messages, and then, put this on your calendar to share the work you're doing with the world and give artists, give creatives, give people hope and inspiration that you put your mind to something, you have an idea, you go out and chase it, you make it happen. Like, that's inspiring. And we can't all do it alone. Right. And we all need help to do that. And I think that should be the other reminder for anyone out there listening is if you have ideas and you're struggling to make them come to fruition, it's okay to get help. It's okay to ask for others. It's okay to collaborate and partner. You talk about all these collaborations and partnerships you're doing. That is really, really important to be successful in this world. Right.
Yeah. I saw a good thing the other day, and it was like a quote kind of, and it said, people at the bottom have competition, people at the top have collaboration. So there comes a point where, also with some certain projects, it's okay to put a pause on it. If you need to take a mental health break, if you're going through something, if you can't dedicate to a project, you can put it on pause. That's okay.
Yep.
And then come back and hit it harder than you did before. So that's what it's about. It's just about being relentless, never giving up on anything. Every successful person, they never gave up. They had an idea, they had a vision, and they executed it, and they did everything they could to possibly to make it happen. So to me, that's what it's about. Is I see a lot of people kind of like fall off, or like they quit the industry and things like that. But you kind of have to remind yourself, like, why did I even get into this? Like remind yourself sometimes, I love what I do. This is my passion. And even if I don't become successful per se, like I'm doing what I love, and I don't see myself doing anything else. But I mean, yeah, like currently most of my income is from my personal brand. But the goal is, like I said, to pivot from that. Like I do want to kind of peel back spawns on a little bit and then focus more on the event curation and artist management. So like my goal is to become a successful festival curator and successful artist manager, and also running like a media company. Whether
Yep.
I'm creating content or not, that's fine with me, because as long as I'm, every few weeks I'm going out and shooting something that makes me happy.
Yep.
Um,
Yeah,
so
that's great. And your personal brand, just to be clear on that one, is the
spawn zone.
design sponsor.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that's great. So I guess like I want to hear some things about like perspective, right? Like, the Racket House was started. I mean, talk about evolution and rebranding. I mean, I started Racket House as an artist management and event production company. Um, I've gotten away from both those things and, had this epiphany that I could kind of take a bit of a different role in helping artists. And I want to hear like, what are you hearing and seeing on the front lines, right? Like, um, what do you think are the biggest challenges or the biggest challenge for artists today? And how do you overcome those things?
I would say biggest challenge is just building your audience. There's so much stuff that you have to go against in the algorithm. It's not even, you can't even just produce music anymore. You have to create these TikToks, and you have to figure out how the algorithm hits and like what time you can post, and oh, I need a hook. Oh, I need to add captions to this. You essentially, like, one of my artists, he's creating weekly sound designing videos, and I'm really happy for that, because he gets to take a break from being creative as a producer, and he gets to like create content, which is really cool. So it's like you can't just really rely on your music these days. The hard part, I think, is really establishing a brand that's well known and booked consistently. Whether it's, oh, I'm on a tour for this artist, or I'm doing a festival run, or whatever it may be. That is the hardest part, is getting the traction going. But I feel like once you get that snowball effect going, it just starts rolling.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
in the beginning, it is going to be a slow burn, unless of course you have crazy connections out the gate, or you are some prodigy. But like my artists I have, they've gone to Icon, and that's
Hmm.
a cool for helping develop you as an artist, as an individual, and
Yep.
they do really great perspective. So I would say that's the hardest part, is having that, building that audience, because there's so many artists that's so good at what they do. There's so many talented producers, but they don't have an audience to share their music with, which is, it's a shame. And then you have people who create cringy videos, and they don't have the best music, but to become big artists.
Yeah.
Like, do what you can, right? Everyone has their lane. Everyone, I'll never knock someone's hustle, right? Like, there's artists that I'm not a fan of their music, but I will say I respect the hell out of them for being as big as they are, for having the audience, people who are diehard fans.
Yeah.
Like, I respect that. That takes a lot of time, and
Name
you know,
some names.
yeah. Like, I mean, there's a lot of artists out there that I don't really understand their music, like Little Texas, but like he has
Yep.
like a big audience, and they
Yep.
have a crazy 1,000 BPM, and I'm gonna have a
I
seizure.
mean, hey, I'll say this out loud. I'm not a big Drake fan, but like the dude is one of the best to ever do it. His music doesn't really resonate with me, but people love it, right? So that's art, right? Like finding your audience, I think is huge. I think, well, I totally agree with you, right? It's like it's a process of like, okay, create really good music. Like the music is what's gonna set you apart. It's what's
Mhm.
going to make you who you are, and consistency and uniqueness. But the challenges, of course, like you mentioned, is getting it out to the masses, figuring out a way to get it in front of your target audience. I think it's
Mhm.
really important to know who your target audience is and what your offering is, and then how to get it in front of those people. And, I, social media is obviously a common topic, and I try to tell people I work with and other artists, it doesn't have to be cringe content. You lean into your skills, you showcase something, you figure out what resonates, but the consistency is really, I think, the most important part, right?
Yeah.
But you talk about the challenge in finding and growing your audience. What are some of the winning tactics that you've seen? Like what, maybe how you've helped your artists, or um, there's no one key to success, but what are a few of them?
I mean, I would say that it's a hard line to walk between like showcasing yourself, and then like hitting the algorithm and kind of appeasing the social media gods. So I think when my artists are authentic is when they're getting really good results online.
Mm,
And like when my artists can kind of lean into their personalities, like their goofiness or things like that. Like
yes.
people still want that. People still want to know who you are behind the screen. They want the personality. So I
Yes.
feel like when my artist's personality shines through their music, through their song, whatever it may be. Oh, I'm going through a really hard time in life, but I want to make some really aggressive music. Like that stuff hits because that people resonate with it.
Yeah.
So I think it's about having a platform where you're still true to yourself, where you can be kind of vulnerable a little bit, but
Yep.
like authentic and having something where people are like, wow, like I really fuck with this. This is something that really makes me feel a certain way. It gives me emotion. It gives me a certain feeling. So I think when my clients are able to invoke that feeling and that emotion is when it's really important.
Yeah.
Um,
But
and
then the question or the challenge becomes like, how do you separate the brand from the person, or do you? Right? Like, I have a client who performs with a mask,
Mhm.
and we're trying to balance his content at least with like showing the masked performer and that being his brand, but then some like mask off moments and being a human and a person, right? Like, what is your opinion on that, and how is the person the brand? Are they one and the same? How do you separate? Do you separate?
yeah. So I feel like the brand is really an extension of you and like who you want to be and how you want to like be perceived and portrayed. But there also is there is definitely differentiation. Like, hey, this is who I am on stage, but who I am like because do have artists that they get like nervous before they play, but when
Sure.
they are on stage, they become a whole different person.
Oh yeah.
And there are certain times where I can't like separate the brand from the person. Like when someone does something terrible, like an artist, people are like, oh yeah, I'll go stream this artist who just beat up his wife, but like I'm still supporting them. So that's when I don't separate the brand from the artist. It kind of, I guess it's kind of like situational, but I feel like people can kind of lean in on that because I've had artists who get really nervous. They don't like being in front of a camera, but they love being with a mask. So I feel like you kind of got to do what you got to do to be comfortable and to just perform your job well. If you get stage fright and you get nervous and you want to have a mask, I would say do it. Obviously be mindful of what the mask is. There's a lot of like really cheesy mask DJs out there, but if that's how you want to portray your brand, then so be it. It's at the end of the day,
Yeah.
it's the artist does have final say on the brand.
Oh, of
You
course, yeah. It was more of a like a social media question, right? It's like how much of of the content that he's putting out should be featuring the mask versus the person behind the mask, and that sort of thing. So we're finding that balance, and we're trying to test it out. But I think like that's ultimately the driver in everything we do is test, grab data, things like that, right? Um, Okay, so we talked about some challenges finding your audience. I mean, we talked about social media, but like outside of social media, what are some other tactics that you've seen work really well as far as like building, growing an audience, or having repeat customers, loyalty, that sort of thing? If we're talking about it in a business sense, right? So social media is a big tool, right? We've acknowledged it's a kind of necessary evil at this point, but what are we doing outside of that to help grow an artist?
just networking. Honestly, that's going to be the biggest key. Making sure that my artists have guest lists for things, making sure that it's the right credential. I would say that's probably the biggest thing that we're doing outside of digital presence, because I feel like your digital presence is probably going to be majority of what you do in terms of our industry. I mean, everything is so like, oh, what are your streaming numbers? What are your followers? Like, oh, this is going to be, you have 10,000 followers, it's going to dictate what your rate is.
Yep.
So, like, your online presence is so important. I would say it's like 70% of the pie, but I would say the remainder would be making sure my artists are set up with the networking opportunities that are helping them,
Yeah.
online, helping them. Oh, okay, maybe this is an artist you can meet, you can potentially collaborate with one day. Get a
Yeah.
big collab with this artist. Now you have their audience as well. So, I
What
would say
about
this is the networking.
What about anything else you guys, I mean, maybe you don't want to share your secret sauce or anything, but like, I follow some industry veterans, and one of them has this concept, Rob Abelo. I don't know if you know the name, but he had this concept, sent an email newsletter about owned versus rented platforms, right? And we think about the concept of like, if we're using social media, we're using Spotify, we're using other streaming platforms, we're kind of renting right?
Mhm.
We're putting our stuff up there. We don't own the property. We're not always able to engage. But like, what about some things to do to like better interact with our fans? I'm still a big proponent of like email lists, right? Building up your email list and communicating directly with those people. Like outside of social media, outside of streaming platforms, are you, bullish on anything else to help artists grow their brand or anything? And obviously in person, but I'm talking digital.
Um, I would say majority of our focus is going to be on the online presence, definitely. I mean, if it's not online, it's just going to be a lot of them just developing themselves as an individual, just like becoming the best version of themselves. So like I do have my artists that I've gotten some to like start meditating.
Hmm.
Some have started journaling. Some have
Yep.
started like learning about like manifestation and things like that. Obviously everyone has different beliefs in life in this world, but I'm a firm believer in manifestation,
Yep.
and I think it's real in my life. I can't vouch for everyone else and how their universe works, their rules, but I would say really digging on the development of them as an individual is another thing I really am heavy on.
Mm.
For my artists to make sure they have healthy habits. I have artists that go to the gym all the time. They're eating better foods, better relationships outside, because a lot of stuff does affect your well-being.
Yes.
People like to neglect it, but mental health is such a big factor, especially in our industry. So I'm a big person on my artist's mental health. If my artist is not doing well, the brand's not going to do well. So that's just how it is. Like,
That is facts right there. I've been
you
through
have.
that myself, so I completely agree with you. I think that's a really unique way to look at things because we don't talk about that stuff enough.
Mhm.
So that's great. Thank you for sharing that. I'd say we're probably nearing the end of our time together. Unfortunately, I feel like I could talk to you for hours, but I'd love to hear some kind of, I have a couple questions around uh, well, tell me this: who's like the most fun artist that you've worked with or shot with? And I'm talking from the photo video side of the world. Like,
Hmm. Most fun artist. I would say I really enjoy working with Joel Corey. That guy is awesome.
hmm,
There's certain people you meet and you're like, this person deserves every single bit of success that they have. That guy is one of the hardest working, nicest artists I've ever worked with. I did both of his US North American tours. I went with him to shoot Ultra. He had a collab with David. I will say David Guetta, but some people are like Guetta. So David Guetta, we went on him with the little yacht and like went to Ultra and pulled up that way. That was really cool. It was a great experience.
and you
Um,
talk about like health and well being. This dude is ripped, Joel
yeah,
Corey. Like,
yeah.
he's like a fitness model if he wasn't a DJ, probably.
Yeah, he's like signed with like C4 Energy and like I think his collaborations with Nike and all that stuff.
Dude.
He's crushing. I mean, I hear his music all the time. Like when I was like gearing up for tour, it'd be funny. I was at a random chicken and waffle spot in Long Beach at 3 a.m. and this song came on. And like I sent him a WhatsApp. I was like, dude, like I'm just chilling here and your song's here. I go in the elevator. I go LA Fitness. His music's playing everywhere. So
And
um,
he probably doesn't eat many chickens or waffles
yeah,
if he's keeping a body like that.
yeah,
Okay, so
he's
that's awesome. It's great to hear. Yeah, well, I mean, also like that's a whole nother conversation, right? Like, not only is he an artist touring the world, but he's got brand sponsorships, right? Like, how do you make money in music? Well, you get big enough to do those kinds of deals,
yeah.
which I think is really important. What other artists are like just killing it right now? And I'm talking musically, brand wise, social media game, whatever that comes with it. But like, who's really like, standing out from the crowd right now? And then like, I'd also love to know like who's the next big thing? Like, who's going to break out in 2025?
So in terms of who's like crushing it on, like even someone I haven't worked with, just like in general.
I think just like in this giant industry we work in, and we're so connected to the music. Like, who do you like really admire right now, whether or not you're working with them?
I would say in terms of an artist, because I do manage, house artists and dubstep artists.
Yeah.
I would say in the bass realm, definitely always going to give it to Sudden Death.
Mm,
His manager is actually the reason why Void is a thing, and his Void project is what blew him up. So I really respect how they were able to kind of not reinvent the wheel, but how they were able to like take his brand to the next level through having like a little side project like that became so massive. So I would say he is definitely someone I kind of look up to in terms of even like branding my guys. Like the vibe and feel that you get from his videos, his performances,
yep.
how massive they are. So like that's someone in the game who, I mean, he played Ultra. So it's like now it's really cool to see bass artists coming into these like Tomorrowland, coming to these festivals that didn't have that kind of presence.
Oh yeah.
So artists like him are definitely ones that in terms of the bass realm. And then I would say in the house realm, probably someone like Mal P. I
Yeah.
think he's absolutely crushing it right now, and his EDC set was great. So something like that is definitely like an artist caliber that I want my boys to get up to. But it's definitely people that kind of take like a play from their playbook. Definitely.
Yeah, the Malpe story is interesting. I mean, like, you know, we only find out about these artists like when one of their song hits, but then they have this whole, you know, long history of being in the space and the production and this back catalog. Like, you know, Summit is an example of that. Like, I actually was part of this label called Build It Records several years back, and he had some releases with them before he blew up, right? So there's like the before, you know, the before breakout and the after breakout. But I think like, you know, somebody like Mal P, you know, he wasn't a one hit wonder. His songs are consistently good. They're unique. They have hooks that you're not hearing anywhere else. And then he also like, he's got this like this persona too that I think is really interesting. Like not giving a fuck, pretty boy, a little bit dirty, you know, and then picking up these like Vegas residencies there. So yeah, I think if we have people to kind of like look at what they're doing from a brand perspective, and I love how many times you said brand in this conversation too, because it's something I talk about all the time. It sounds like the artists that we work with, we work with them in similar ways and preach different, you know, preach similar things, and I think we're on that same track. So I guess, you know, I'll kind of close with like, what message do you have to, you know, to or for aspiring artists out there? Like, give us your wisdom, give us your like your I'm gonna leave with this on my tombstone.
Yeah, so I like how we are ending with the brand thing, because I think there's a difference between a company and a brand, and I think brand is what everyone needs to have their project become, because people buy into brands, it invokes an emotion, people just connect with it so much more, and I think that's what's going to lead to you having a higher probability of success. So in terms of people who are trying to get in the game, who want to do this, I think you need to have like a role model, someone you look up to, so you can, like, obviously what comparisons the thief of joy, but you do need to have some comparative kind of perspective, like, okay, this person at this level, this is what they did to get there, I should be doing the same thing. So I think when people start having a vision and executing on it is when they start really driving the boat to where it needs to be.
Yeah.
So honestly, it's just about never losing sight of what your end goal is, and always just dreaming bigger, just like knowing that there's levels to this, because like
Yes.
I didn't even think the Spawn Zone brand would get to where it was, and now I'm at this level, like, wow, there's still more levels to this, I can still keep going. So it's
Yep.
an ending pursuit of like perfection, right? They say perfection
Yep.
doesn't exist, but I think you can get pretty damn close.
Yeah.
So I think always challenging yourself and surrounding yourself with people is key.
Yeah.
You are a part of your surroundings. You
Yep.
need to surround yourself with people who are big thinkers, people who are ambitious, people who hold you accountable, and people who just make you want to grow and just make you excited about everything.
Yeah.
So I think that's really key, is who you surround yourself with and your mindset. Get your mindset right, everything else will fall into place. So that's what.
Totally it. Believe you can do it. You know, say that you will do it. And, you know, for that vision for yourself and that plan, like just write it down, write your goals down. Like that stuff can change, you know? And I don't think there's anything wrong with, even if you're a creative or an artist, and if you go back to thinking of yourself as CEO of your company, you know, or your brand, whatever it is, like don't be afraid to write a business plan, you know, write goals, you know, and reevaluate every 3, 6, 9 months, 12 months, whatever, you know? So I think like those who hustle hardest and believe that they can do it are doing it. I'm seeing the transformation with people I'm working with. You know, one of my artists went from, you know, he said this out loud to me. You know, he went from, I want to do this to I am doing this. And like, I'm just so floored by, you know, the results that people see when they do the things they need to do, work their asses off, and then put out a quality product as well. So, James, thank you so much, man. I really appreciate you and your time and what you're doing for the industry and the community. Anyone listening to this, go check out IndustryHours, especially if you're in LA or Southern California, and hopefully coming to a city, state, country, planet near you. And yeah, thank you so much, James. I'm gonna yeah, we'll be talking more. We should
Definitely
do
for
more of
having
this
me.
for sure.
This is a great project as well. So
Oh
looking
yeah.
forward
Let's
to it.
do a smile for the camera as well. Hey. Cool. All right.